Project Prometheus is a digitally simulated competitive environment populated by pseudo-sentient, organically taught digital agents. Prometheus employs agent versus agent training, which intrinsically has a high level of behavioral complexity and has been shown to elicit emergence. These agents interact, explore, struggle, compete, and will ultimately cooperate in an ecosystem that aims to mirror, in its most primitive form, our own. The viewer is to fill the role of guardsman and surveiller, the simulation and intersectional examination of our complex relationship with machines and our existence as constituents in a Foucauldian panoptical society.
Project Prometheus uses AI agents created within the Unity engine as a medium to create art. While contained in their own world, AI agents work towards societal development through behaviors that parallel our own. Resource collection, housing, and community are behaviors we observe within the simulation, while making notes of their progression. We, the programmers, fall into the role of surveyor, who are responsible for making sure the AI develop the way we seek. Through time-allotted learning periods, constant adjustment, and realigning of priorities, the AI stray further from natural development and evolve under the influence of human will. Conscious purpose is represented in the AI as an existential penalty, urging the AI to move forward and seek fulfillment in its life. While being the object of our observation, the AI are not yet self-aware and operate in their own world without question of the world around them.
Previously, we had an environment with one agent collecting a resource and had success with training that. That environment used to get us more comfortable with training an agent and constructing its environment from the ground up, as well as getting experience from the MLH's library. Currently, we've been working on a multi-agent environment that consists of 2 agents competing against each other to collect the resource packet. This is much closer to our final vision of having 4 factions with multiple agents fighting over resources. This environment uses self-play, which means the 2 agents you see on the screen are the same model, but it's fighting an older version of itself. Previously, with one agent, we ran into the problem where it becomes overfitted, which meant if we put it into a larger environment, it would fail and no longer work properly. To fix this on our 2-agent training, we put the agents into many different size environments to give it more varied training data and not overfit on a specific solution, but rather the generic solution that we're trying to teach it. For these agents, we also changed up our observations. We found that only using raycast observations works really well for this kind of problem after a lot of trial and error. We found that the agents were running into a problem where they moved out of the raycast range and therefore didn't know where the goals or what the research package was and kind of became lost since they had no information. They sort of learned to wander around to gather information, but this wasn't too apparent, so we're planning to try out supplementing the agents with vector observations so they always know where the goals are and the ball is. So as for behavior, the competitive 2-agent scenario has resulted in some interesting behaviors and interaction between the 2 agents. We've observed them fighting over the resource by pushing back and forth against each other, learning to dribble the resource across the environment towards the goal. Another behavior we found really interesting was the resource would bounce, and they would actively hit it before it fully fell. We also found that they would tend to push the resource in the corners, but eventually learn to get out.
Visually, we've gone on to further develop the cityscape. A lot of the objects in the scene now term to serve as a motif for the connection between humanity and the virtual environment, and more specifically with artificial intelligence. We've tried to stick with a pseudo-realistic environment just to further highlight that distinction and also that connection. We've included things like satellites and cameras and some graphic design elements like posters to further elaborate on that connection between the physical world and the virtual world.
As for next steps with Prometheus, our main avenue of development will continue to be the inter-agent interaction, the multi-agent training. That development takes a lot of time and a lot of trial and error. Therefore, it will probably take the vast majority of our development time, just as a team, sort of problem solving. And then otherwise we would be further sort of developing and solidifying our aesthetic choices. So the application of the security motifs throughout, and the use of photogrammetry and image texturing to elicit a sort of pseudo realism will be basically our other next step, and then from there we'll put everything together near the end of the following semester, or this coming semester.